Ladies and gentlemen, guys and girls, my name is Raven and welcome back to my channel. Now in today's video, I'm going to be talking about 3 things that For Honor will need in year 2 in order to get a whole bunch of players coming back to the game. They're doing an amazing job right now in season 4 with the defensive meta, and of course we'll have dedicated servers coming sometime soon, and we'll have the brand new heroes as well, which will round out the roster quite a bit. But even with all these really cool things coming in season 4, in year 2 they will still need some really cool things to get new players coming to the game, and of course get those players that they lost returning to the game with some cool features. Now I have 3 features that I know will bring a lot of players back to the game and will bring new players into the game as well. And if you've been subbed to me for quite a while, you might have heard me talk about a few of these in the past. So let's kick it off with the first one, and that is going to be a mercenary faction. Now I have talked about this in the past in previous videos, but what would be the point of a mercenary faction? Currently we have the 3 factions, okay? We have the Knights, we have the Samurai, and the Vikings. Now when it comes to those 3 factions, there is only so much you can actually do and so many, heroes you can bring into the fold without it being stupid. Now the Knights, they have a bit more leeway, obviously with the, Centurion and the Gladiator being Italian. Now it's not too far-fetched that they would be fighting with the Knights. But when it comes to the Vikings and then of course the Samurai, it gets a little bit harder to introduce something like that into the mix. Now as cool as it is to have, a Viking or a Knight or a Samurai with some brand new weapons, which they will be doing in the future, I think it'd be really cool to have some warriors from some different cultures throughout time enter the game as well. And you could also do some crazy ones too if you had a mercenary faction, let's say. So with a mercenary faction, we could get a Greek hoplite come in, a Spartan type guy, and he could come in and fit perfectly in there. We could get a pirate, which would make a lot of sense because pirates like money, and of course you could hire a pirate through a mercenary system to come and fight for you. And I know a lot of people would love to play as a pirate. One of his feats could be he pulls out a pistol and shoots people. It could be cool. Another hero they could put into the mercenary faction could be a Mongolian warrior. Go Genghis Khan all up in this bitch. And if they really want to stretch it, they could even put in, say, an Aztec Panther warrior or something like that, some Aztec guy. That would be really fucking cool. Overall, I think the mercenary faction would be an amazing idea. It would allow them to bring in warriors from different cultures. It will allow people to play these warriors no matter what faction they're playing. It would also allow the developers to just experiment with some really cool shit from different cultures and put that in as well. So that is the first one. Up next, we're going to be talking about a siege mode. Now, I have talked a lot about the siege mode, and lots of people really fucking want this in the game. At the end of this video and down below in the description box, I will link my video to a siege mode so you can watch it, and it'll give you a general sense of how it would play out. And of course, you can go through the comments, and there are tons of ideas there from people on, their variations of the siege mode and how they would like it to play as well. So I'm not going to go too in depth with the actual siege mode and how it would play because I've already covered that in that video, so please check it out. But today, when it comes to the siege mode, I'm going to talk about the fact that they could do it in a massive fashion in year 2 because we will have dedicated servers. Let's be honest, a 4v4 siege mode that they could do right now would be okay, but it would be a lot better if it was, say, 10v10 or something like that. Now, if I was to say 10v10 right now under the current, server system, people's heads would explode, mine too, because the game can barely function with 4v4 with all the disconnects and stuff still happening to people. But once dedicated servers are in, start of next year, the whole disconnect thing will no longer be an issue. So they could start adding modes with, 10v10, 6v6, and so on and so forth, because they will have the stability to actually do a bigger mode with more people. And of course, you could have more minions, and you could have something like a castle siege. Overall, a siege mode is something that the community has been asking for a very long time. I don't think anyone would be opposed to a, siege mode being added into the game. I don't think anyone's going to stand up and go, oh yeah, I don't want that. And what better way to get players to come back to the game than going, hey, the defensive meta's fixed, dedicated servers are in, oh, and hey, we got a siege mode as well. At this point, it's kind of a no-brainer for a brand new mode. And the last one I'm going to be talking about is a faction war overhaul and a faction war game mode. So everyone knows the current implementation of the faction war is a complete failure, and it is nothing like Ubisoft wanted it to be. You can tell considering they keep trying to change the thing and keep trying to improve it, but they don't really want to do a full overhaul of it because, they're working on a whole bunch of other things right now that take precedent over the faction war. And whether you think the faction war is rigged or not, put that aside, we can all agree that it isn't that exciting. You play a game, which is the fun part, and then at the end you sort of just, pick a spot, click on it, and it drops some numbers on it, and then you walk away. What faction you are doesn't really make a difference, except for the very end where you get rewards and ornaments, which we all know they're fucked up a little bit with the last 2 seasons. So in year 2, I propose that they do a complete faction war rework, okay? Scrap the whole system they got now, for the most part, and make a brand new faction war template system based around a faction war. Now here's how this faction war game mode would work. You would have 3 modes, okay? You would have 1v1v1, which would be called faction duel. You'd have 2v2v2, which you could call Faction Brawl, and then you'd have 3v3v3, which would be Faction Supremacy. And you would have all that tied to a revamped version of the Faction War map and the system that they got in place right now. Now, the way this would work is you could only enter these Faction War game modes as your faction. So if you enter the Supremacy mode, 3v3v3, it would be 3 knights, okay, from the Knight faction versus 3 samurai versus 3 Vikings. And at the start of the Faction War season, if you pick knights, if you want to enter the Faction War mode, you can only play knight heroes. No being with the Knight faction and playing, you know, a Viking in the Faction War mode. This way, people would take pride in their faction that they've chosen to fight for, and at the same time, they could put in some really goddamn cool ornaments that are faction specific. So you could have some that are purely for the Knights, have some that are purely for the Vikings, and have some that are purely for the Samurai, and have those ornaments tied solely to the Faction War game mode. And by having the 3 modes, there is something there for everyone. For the people who, you know, want that more skill-based 1v1 type situation, you can go for the 1v1v1. Of course, people can do whatever they want. You can have all 3 run in and kick the crap out of each other, or you could have a thing where, you know, the Knights and the Samurai fight each other while the Viking guy stands there and cheers, and then they, you know, take turns. Whatever you want to do, it'd be nice and tense, and you can have that like sort of 1v1-ish scenario. And then you can bump that up to the 2v2v2, where it's a bit more of a clusterfuck, and then you can go right up to 3v3v3, where it's an absolute mess. I think overall that would be a lot more fun. It would make the Faction War a lot more goddamn interesting. It would make people want to participate in the actual Faction War because they get unique ornaments based on their faction, which after they win, they get to run around and sport those and look really cool. And it would also stop this whole, oh, these guys won this time, let's jump ship to this faction. These guys did this, let's jump ship. You know, people would stick to their factions. They'd go, I really fucking like Vikings. I like kicking the shit out of people as a giant Norse guy. I'm gonna go Vikings, and there is a mode there for me that I can play that is all about Vikings winning and me going for it for my faction. So those are 3 things that they need to put in year 2 of For Honor, especially if they want people to come back to the game and they want to get that player base back, because lots of people want to play a siege mode, lots of people want to play as different warriors from different cultures as well, and in general, people want to give a shit about the Faction War and they want a reason to actually care about the Faction War. And the Faction War game mode, tied to a revamped version of the Faction War system with unique faction specific ornament rewards, would be a really good way to get people hyped and get them to come back to the game. And of course, any brand new players that come to the game will just be swimming in all this really cool shit. But that is all I have for this video, so thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. What do you think about the siege mode? What do you think about the mercenary faction? And what do you think about the Faction War game mode? Do you want to see some of these things in the game? Do you want to see all of them in the game, or do you want to see none of them in the game? Please let me know down below. I really want to hear from you guys, and I want you guys to have a nice discussion down below with me and everyone else about these things. And please share this video around. It does help me out a fuck ton. And if you want to see more videos from me, please hit the subscribe button. I shall see you all in the next video. Have a good one, guys.